Here we are with the next episode of the Geek Out, and this time it's episode number 5. And we have all the same familiar faces today. We have lots of awesome people, so we're going to start off with awesome Lauren.
Well,
And then that was the awesome Tom. That phone was supposed to be muted. He's not part of this conversation, but he's here in spirit, as you can hear. We also have the awesome Robert.
waffles.
And we have the awesome Kiefer.
Hi.
And then we have me. I'm just the moderator, I'm James. I ask questions, I talk some. But what we have in today's episode is something a little bit more unique because we only have one topic. But I think we can go on forever with this one, no matter who you're talking to. I mean, I guess the crowd can differ, but with who we have here with us today, I don't think we're going to have a single issue with this. But the topic is, how would you survive a zombie outbreak? There's a lot of details to go into this one. And for this one, to get things started with, we're going to go with Kiefer.
Okay. So first off, you got to define what type of zombie you're dealing with. You can't just expect it to all...
It's muted. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So first, you got to figure out what type of zombie you're dealing with. You can't just go out there and expect them to be slow and then find fast ones or something. So... let's just assume that they're the slow zombies you find in something like Shaun of the Dead, okay? And also how they transmit the disease. Let's assume that it's purely by contact or by bite, like most common pop culture. So the best thing would be to try and board yourself up. Don't go into any public places, but still try and stockpile food, but maybe wait until everyone else is kind of infected and then no one's really rushing to go to the Walmart or anything. Then you can just go in a car or something and then just drive over there. I don't believe that it would be a great idea to just kind of roam around constantly like they do in some video games, because then you have a higher chance of coming across some more people and getting infected. And it's probably best to try and stay in smaller groups rather than large groups, because then if one person's infected, then it's easier for everyone to get infected. What about you, Robert?
Okay. All right. So sticking with the slow-moving zombie idea, I'm going to go with, this is just one possibility of how I would survive. I'm going on the premise that I'm by myself. So with that being said, I need survival gear. I want knife, short stabbing weapons, and one probably gun with a silencer. I'm going to rely more heavily on swords and blades because they're quiet. You can sharpen. A gun will need weapons. Basically bullets. Also, you have to consider, you not only have to worry about zombies, but people. Because now the whole fair play and doing right by each other is gone out the window. So, in fact, I think people are more scarier than zombies because it'd be the strong against the weak. So, you got your weapons. Where do I want to go? For me, it'll be the ocean, a boat. It'll be where I can take it out far enough so I can see what's coming at me, but close enough to show I can get food, I can fish, and my ultimate goal is to get to an island. Now, I'm not saying that island is perfect, but you have to figure there's only so many people. But between the boat and the shore, I would travel at night, use my goggles, because you can still get to the hardware store, and you just have to a strategic way of moving. I wouldn't even use a car. Car requires gas. Car makes noise. Car will require attention. I'll go for like a bicycle, an electric car maybe, an electric bike. I don't expect to hit the shoreline overnight. This will take time. But if you plan a route, avoid groups, then you should be able to get to that shoreline, get to the boat, and take it from there. But that's just one way of trying to make it through the zombie apocalypse. Not to say it's the perfect way, but it's how I would do it if I was by myself. Lauren?
Oh, and I am much more of a mountain type person. So I would probably have my little cabin up in the mountains, make sure everything is, as bad and, tightened down as possible. I'm already into carpentry and fabrication, so I hadn't thought about it before, but I have a great many very sharp things in my garage, and we have experience with the garden. So if I'm up in the mountains somewhere, and I have some way of protecting my house, then for the most part, I should be able to have everything that I need with me up there. Well, what about you, James?
Well, hmm. Robert touched on one of my favorite, at least theories, is the whole island idea is a good idea. I like it. I would. It kind of goes back to some old coworkers at a place called MGM. That when everybody is obsessed with this whole game of who's on whose island. If you could only choose this many people to be on your island, kind of thing. I would definitely find I'd be hard focused on trying to find the perfect island that has vegetation, that has the ability to have good growing soil to be able to grow your own food and everything on. And once I find that island, I would be really dead focused on finding all my closest friends and family and saying, "Hey, come over here. Keep everybody you care about close, and screw everybody else. Everybody else can fend for themselves." But you have a place to grow everything, and you have the lumber trees or anything around you. You can build your homes, start fresh, and good luck trying to get to us. Um, Another option would be definitely there's a place in China, and I forget the name of the mountain. It's a majestic looking mountain that just straight up. It's like sheer walls going straight. It's got like a waterfall and everything, and it's like super tall up in the clouds and shaved off at the bottom, or excuse me, at the top. So it's like this giant plateau of a mountain. I don't know how any zombie is going to be able to climb up that thing. That's going to be pretty much impossible. So if you can get to the top somehow in the helicopter, and at least you got a good vantage point right there, and a helicopter for a little while until you run out of fuel, so you can get food back and forth until you can get vegetation growing up there. And I think that would be a really good thing. So I'm hard focused on self-sustaining, environments where you don't have to worry about Walmart, as you guys said. You don't have to go to any of these other stores or anything. Like, you don't have to compete with humans because you can let them, have their whole battle royale on the ground as you sit up in the clouds or off on your island somewhere, say in pure safety and self-sustaining food with your closest friends and family. And I don't really think there's anything you can complain about in that kind of situation. So, and then eventually things will, figure itself out on the ground, back on land, and you can come back down and rebuild the human race, I guess. But yeah, that would be my theory. Let's go back to Robert and see if he's got any buts, ifs, or ands for that one.
Let's go with the group idea. Because I gave you my idea in terms of being solo. Now I'm gonna go with the group idea. So, if I had a group, I wouldn't be so much on an island. I'm thinking about control. I'm thinking about taking back a small part in a city or state, because now I have bigger numbers. I could fend off not against zombies, but against people. So if I can take control back for like a town with its own like power source and grid, with a group, we're talking about we have our weapons and everything else, then we can build up, like they have in Alexandria in The Walking Dead, we can start a small community all over again, heavily modified, so we don't have to worry about zombies, and we can let certain people in. But we're going to have the guns, the weapons, and everything else. And then we can get to Costco, take all the food we need, or build around Costco, or a Walmart, Start from there, expand it. Maybe get some construction going. Maybe just seal it off and have an underground tunnel. We can go with the fact that maybe we'd use the train system. Trains is always moving. Connect the cities. Maybe enclose certain hubs. But if you want to go with the group aspect, and as far as the mountains, sure, that could work. You can even go with a high rise. Once again, if you have a group to take over a certain part, you can defend it better against zombies and other people, as opposed to my lone wolf thing. Kiefer?
I think that would kind of be a good idea, but it depends if it's pre or post governmental collapse, because that could be considered illegal and frowned upon. And after the zombie apocalypse passes eventually, if it does, then you could, get arrested and have fines placed on you for defacing public property. That's an issue I'm considering. Not really, but that's a big factor, like governmental collapse, and also how long the zombies last. Because according to my research online, like skeletonization happens it happens around 1 month after death. So, or the body starts to liquefy at around 1 month after death. So the thing is that depends if they're the living dead or if they're still technically alive but just infected with a virus that they still need to eat and drink and stuff like that. Depends. In that situation, the latter situation, I'm not sure how feasible it would be to just try and stay anywhere connected to the mainland. It would be best to just stay away from all civilization, like the mountain idea or the island idea. But if it's the former, where it's like they last like about a month and they just kind of liquefy and die off, I mean, staying put in a smaller community would probably be a better idea, in my opinion. What do you think, Lauren?
I would agree with all that, but I'm also, one thing that I was thinking about, like with the sky rise, and I think, was it Fuji or Kilimanjaro that you're thinking of, James? The mountain in Asia.
Neither, I believe. It had a unique. It's if you look it up on Google, it's one of those like the wonders of the world. You see everybody has a blog post somewhere that likes to focus on some of their favorite. Like whoa, this place exists. And every time I see that, I'm like, that's real.
So one thing that I was thinking of with that, or with the skyrise idea, or something like that, is still being able to stay there for a long period of time, like self-sustaining. So like in that kind of situation, I think a lot of it would have to do with also climate. Like how easy would it be to grow things up there? Or, I guess, if you have, the way of getting, electricity or power, the concept of like maybe being in, high-rise building would be doable. But even there, a lot of it has to do with, how self-sustaining is it? So, what do you think, Robert?
Yes, a high rise is good because you can take out the bottom floors and barricade it, but you're also blocked in. Now, depending on what city you're in, if you like carpentry, you can probably do some kind of bridge. Interesting, but it could work. And with multiple floors, you have more room you can grow, a good space between people coming up underneath, and if you could somehow get dirt up to the roof, you could technically kind of grow food because you have rain and everything else. And also being in a high rise, you're probably in the city, so maybe you can get some gasoline going and get the generators going and everything else. So yeah, I could see that. But I also want to respond to Kiefer. You said something about government coming back and fines and everything else. Well, let's see. We're talking about waking up the next morning and the dead are walking for no apparent reason. Okay? And if we go with The Walking Dead, if you die, you wake up dead. You come back alive.
Mm-hmm.
There's no cure for that. We have no cure offhand. So we won't even know how to handle that. We'll be trying to handle a disease we would never even heard of. And there's going to be mass infection. And before people even realize what's going on, the government will be already collapsed. It's done. It's going to be a very, very long time. And will there even be a cure? Because a lot of people figured, okay, if I get bit by a zombie, you turn. you could just die of natural causes and come back in turn. You don't even have to be bitten. And unless there's a bunch of scientists somewhere that has not been affected, it's just going to take time. So as far as mobilizing and becoming militia groups, you don't have anything to worry about fines, because it's going to take a long time before we come back as a society. So deface all you want. But what do you think, James?
I agree. I think that it depends on what's left over, I guess, from the military and the government and everything else. I mean, if it was completely eradicated, there's a good chance that society would start from the ground up, starting from their little nations that they've boxed themselves into. You know, looking at The Walking Dead as an example again, all those different factions, you know, are likely. I mean, there's still some kind of a government presence there, and this isn't a discussion about the show, so we can't get too deep into that. But you know, it gives the idea that there's a government presence there. We don't know how big it is. You know, if it's big, then the government's going to come back eventually. I don't think there's going to be fees involved, but they are going to want their land back and their control back when they do flip the switch. And that's going to determine a lot of politics of how things go down, or war in some cases. But I don't think they're going to come to, you know, slapping everybody in the back of the head going, you're fined, you're fined, you're fined, you're fined. You know, you turned that Costco into a home base. How dare you? Well, survival. You got to survive. I think that that's when humanity needs to stand together and let bygones be bygones and say, hey, you know what? I get it. You needed to survive. It's good. But from this point forward, we need to have normalcy and order and a hierarchy of control here. And that doesn't include you being in control. So thanks a lot. We got it from here. If there is no military whatsoever left, if it's been completely eradicated, again, all those different various factions going back to The Walking Dead are going to be the new states, you know, and it's going to expand from there. And America and China and Russia and all these other places are going to have to be rebuilt into their what once was their glory, you know, from what's now new. And yeah, so I think that's my take on governments and the military in terms of how things will go down. I definitely don't think anybody would ever get fined for anything. It's just there's two sides of the coin on how that can go down in the end and how peacefully it happens. That's what determines that. So what about worst case scenario, zombie apocalypse? You know, where or just let's just throw World War Z out there. I mean, because that's pretty worst case scenario right there. World War Z. You know, Keith talks about slow moving zombies, but let's talk about those fast moving zombies. Now suddenly they can run and climb buildings and climb on top of each other, and maybe they can even think as a horde. How would we survive something like that? And for that, I think we'll start with Robert.
Okay. Let's see. World War Z, 28 days later. All right. Well, yes, the zombies have a little bit aggressive, which makes it a little more interesting because now you got to deal with not a slow moving zombie, but a horde of running zombies at you. Difficult, but not impossible. Zombies are still attracted to sound. You can use that for your benefit in terms of distracting them. So once again, you want to go with weapons that are quiet. You will only use a gun or a rifle in case you absolutely have to. Number two, your movements. I believe that if they only attract the sound of movement, you probably try to go at night. If possible, if you have night vision goggles or not. If you can't, then during the daytime, then you would have to plan your travels, avoiding large populated areas, and try to keep it low populated. The whole point is also to get a base that you can defend either as a group or by yourself. And if we're assuming that there's not going to be any kind of government intervention, this has to be for a long period of time, which goes back to Lauren. You want to have some skills so you can grow food, fix things on your own. So yes, you have fast-moving horde zombies looking at you, which is worse than slow, but still you gotta stick to the basics. You keep quiet, you keep low, you avoid large populations, and the whole point is you want to get to a place that you can call your own, last for a long period of time, grow food, and like what James said, you can build with people, and it can be safe. Um, so the only difference is just basically you just can't walk to a horde because you have to basically you have to think because when they run on you, you're done, absolutely done. So difficult, but not impossible. Laura?
Oh no, I mean that makes perfect sense to me. The only other thing I would suggest is, and I'm not sure where we would be able to find it, at least here in Vegas easily. Um, Maybe trying to find something underground, or well, no, probably underground would be the best option. But I don't. I mean, I'm sure there are bunkers somewhere. In fact, I think there's a house that comes up on Facebook every once in a while that has that basement with the that 70s themed one. So I'm trying to remember where, but that maybe something like that. That hopefully would not be, if you're smart and you don't have to leave it, that they would have no idea that you were even there. Deeper.
Yeah, underground or on an island, I think it would be the best in that scenario, or something. Maybe not buildings. Try not to establish buildings on the mainland, I would assume, or go and because from what I've seen in World War Z, at least the game, from what I've seen, they have like mutations where they're extremely strong and they can break down barricades and stuff quite easily. And if there's so many of them, then it would be easy for them to just steamroll right through a civilization you make and then kill everyone real quick. So I feel like it would be best to stay isolated from everyone and everything, like on an island or underground. Underground would probably be a good option too. It's less possible for them to get underground, I'm assuming. What about you, James?
I could find some issues with underground only because you're bottlenecking yourself, and you're decreasing the amount of exits as much as you are the entrances. And yeah, I mean, if let's say you're you've converted the section of the underground subway system or sewage system or something like that, cleaned it all out and called that home, two ways of in and out. But the zombies somehow fall down a gutter somehow, and they're falling, crawling all over each other, and they got this whole entrance blocked up. You have maybe one other entrance to get out the other side, and it just, I think it lessens your choices, and that's not something you want in a life or death situation. So I would definitely lean back towards island or top of the mountain, because that, as long as you don't make any noise up there, and it's kind of hard to hear anybody from up there, um, who's to say they're ever going to come looking for you up there? And it would be a great place to wait it out. I think in a situation where we have running zombies like that are incredibly aggressive, and they can just, as Kiefer put it, steamroll right through a community. I like that one. uh, I think that the human population would have less of a chance of survival, because it would end up that the majority, your average human being would probably be in constant fear, huddled in a corner somewhere, is like the movie A Quiet Place, where they're just, they don't want to make the tiniest little sound, given that's not a zombie movie, it's about aliens, but it's still the same concept, where they're living, in holes in the ground, they're trying to keep quiet, and it's just, they're always in fear. And I think the average human being couldn't really go through that. They would lose their mind. So you'd have a lot of people just offing themselves, which I hate to put it that way, but there will be a lot of people doing that. More so than the case of slow moving, normal, The Walking Dead style zombies. And I don't think we'd have much. I mean, we have a chance, like Robert says, it's not impossible. It's more difficult, though. I just think that less people will come, from this as a surviving member of the population when it's all over than there would be in any other kind of zombie situation. So that's a tough one, because those zombies are going to mess things up, and they're going to take everybody out. There's going to be the few strongest people standing when it's all over, hopefully, if it is ever over. So we just hope that, as Kiefer says, they liquefy at some point and just go away. So that way we can go back to living our lives. So, what about if you take it up a notch even further and you put intelligence into the mix? Because now you have, let it be slow moving or fast moving. If there's intelligence inside of these zombies, that it doesn't matter how fast they're moving, they are going to be an incredible threat to the human population. So now we're talking like on the maybe even the level of Resident Evil or anything like that, which can go off track big time with how many directions they've gone with that franchise. But intelligence that's a scary one. So that one we'll bring to Kiefer.
First off, I have a slight nitpick with your previous argument. I mean, technically, if the zombies infect everyone, technically the human race will still have survived. It's just no longer really the humans; it's more zombies. See, it's still survived, so you know. But also with intelligence in the mix, I feel like a lot of things like climbing a mountain or going to an island are slightly lesser of an option because, if zombies are intelligent, depends how intelligent. They could just find a boat and go over there, find a helicopter, go up to the mountaintop, So you kind of have to seal yourself away. So I feel like an underground bunker would be one of the only, if not the only ways to kind of, get away from all that, especially if they're like Resident Evil, where they're extremely strong and can easily break through stuff like walls, like in Resident Evil 7. So what do you guys think, Robert?
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand intelligence. Are we talking about a zombie that can still open doors and use tools and even somewhat communicate, but still has a desire for brains, basically?
Sure.
We're looking like that. So they're somewhat human. They're still retaining human abilities, but they still want to eat brains, basically, and human flesh.
Just not so human, but definitely enough to be able to
Right.
think for itself, to be able to understand, like, yes, that person is climbing from that building to that building, and if I flank him from over here, I'm going to have a better chance of catching up with him. But not much further thought process than that, but still enough to be able to come up with thoughts that are strategic versus...
Okay. All right. You definitely take up. Okay. Difficult level of surviving that zombie apocalypse is extremely hard, but not impossible. If you know the type of zombie you're dealing with, then you have, and you know what? It actually depends on the person. The average person will not survive that type of zombie, especially if we're talking about a big group like that. So I would probably lean more to being with a group that's either an ex-military and survivalists, because I'm going to need help with that. Number two, you would have to treat the zombie like an animal, a thinking zombie animal. You would have to understand your prey and adjust to it, and it's going to be difficult because you just cannot make noise. They could probably see. If you're running, then they could outflank you. So you just have to be smarter. You have to treat it not so much it's brain dead, it's human-like. So you have to be smarter. That's basically it. And if that's the case, then I would probably lay more on heavy weapons, if possible, as a group. Headshots would definitely that would be key, and slow it down. Aim for the feet, for the legs. Take out the legs. They can still come at you, but not as fast, because usually a slow-moving zombie, one shot to the head, you're done. But if you're thinking, you definitely want to go for the head, but also go for the body. Slow it down. Go for the arms so they can't grab you or anything else. Fire, bombs, distractions. You can lay traps for them if they can lay traps for you. So for me to survive that type of zombie apocalypse, I would need to surround myself with survival, military guys. Yeah, it will be a difficult challenge. Not impossible, but that type of zombie, it will be difficult. Lauren?
I definitely think that it would have to be much more a focus on defense and strategy than with the other ones, which would be more, just finding some place and hiding it out and waiting it out. So, an arsenal. Um, yeah, depending on how intelligent they are. I mean, are we thinking like intelligence, like being able to fly helicopters and, you know, pilot boats, or are we thinking somewhere in between, James?
I don't think they'd be intelligent enough to pilot helicopters. Like I was referring to is more like general intelligence, where they can maybe communicate with each other with animal instincts or grunts or other things. Not exactly speaking perfect English because we're not talking about the gremlins, but we are. It's just more of where they can stare at each other and somehow grunt back and forth and go on and collectively think, okay, let's go flank them from over there because they move this way. Let's whatever. It's more like Robert uses the best term, animal instincts, so they are intelligent, not as intelligent as us, but they still have some form of intelligence which can be bad.
Okay, so then we can actually probably still hide out on an island or up on a mountain. So that's at least sustainable. I mean, unless it turns out they can swim. But we would definitely have to focus way more on defense than we would otherwise. So whether it's probably a combo of guns in an arsenal, and but also the more quieter type weapons, or even like traps, like was it tripwires and that such as well. So keeper, yeah.
Yeah, I misunderstood the question. I assumed it was like when you said Resident Evil, I was thinking Resident Evil 7, where they had like the full consciousness and they were basically just people. Yeah, in that circumstance, that's a lot better than what I was thinking. So basically, yeah, just continue with the thought process of trying to hide on an island, maybe hiding in a secluded area like a fort or maybe a house or something. Still wouldn't be the best idea, because if they have some conscious thought, they could probably figure out like at least have a general thought of, oh yeah, that's a weaker part. Let's just try and force this in or whatever, Like in a door with the hinges, it's easier to break through than like just a wall. So that's what I'm thinking. What about you, James?
I definitely shall continue to hide on my giant mountain. I like the mountain idea because for one, it's just you're so high up, and there's not really many ways of getting up there without a helicopter. Yeah, so even if the zombies are intelligent enough to figure out that, hey, maybe something's up there, they're gonna have a really difficult time trying to get up there, and especially if you have some kind of as Lauren put it, tripwires and things like that. I think that's a good idea because you can also put cans and stuff like that up, so that way you can get alerted way ahead of time as they're trying to scale up the mountain. But again, I don't think the chance of a zombie, with or without intelligence, getting all the way up that mountain, it's rare. And again, it's mountains, so you might have vegetation. Get your friends, family up there, and everybody can just live out their lives and not worry too much about it. In the meantime, if you have an excess supply of ammo, you can always get a silenced sniper and, have your own live action Call of Duty from way up in the clouds and just very quietly take them out. Take them out. And have challenges of how many funny ways you can take out a zombie from way up there and when they have no idea where it's coming from. Because with that kind of intelligence that they would have, I don't think they'd be able to figure out and be like, that's where that shot came from. I think they'd be more scatterbrained about that one, going, what's going on? Yeah, I mean that's a little dark, but come on, you might as well have some fun in the situation. Yeah, if you don't, relax a little bit and make the best out of the situation you're stuck in, then what do you got? So, yeah, I like the mountain idea still. The island idea is fun too. You just don't get to pick people off from a distance as easily, depending on the island, I guess. But. Not that I ever want to pick people off or anything like that. Let me clarify that. But zombies only. And only if we know that we can't change them back. So I think we covered a lot there. So we got slow-moving zombies, we have fast-moving zombies, we have intelligent zombies, we have all sorts of zombies, and where we can hide, and what to do. So, we're not specialists or anything like that, so I can't say, hey, take this episode as a survival 101 on how to get through a zombie apocalypse. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work. Maybe we will be the first to go. Who knows? Or maybe we'll outlive everybody and go, should have watched our video. But I think that was a fantastic topic, and we could be here all day talking about this. So I guess we'll cut it off there, since I think we've pretty much covered what we needed to cover. Which leads us to what's next. And this is where the viewer, that's you, the person who's watching this video, is actually paying attention to us and actually, you're here. Thank you, by the way. Use the comment section down there and give us some ideas. What do you want us to talk about next? What would you like us or to hear from us? And maybe we'll choose your topic suggestion in the next video or one of the next videos coming up. So make use of the comment section and talk to us and give us some ideas. And of course, is that subscription button. It's down there. Click on it and follow us, because we need the friendships, because that makes us all feel good inside. And we have an awesome cast here. We got Lauren right there. We got Robert. We got Kiefer. We got me. I'm James. And we're having a blast with this, and we can't wait to talk about the next set of topics that we'll have on the next show, which will heavily be determined by maybe some ideas that you give us. So use that comment section. But until then, we'll catch you then. And just hang out and, just hang out on our channel for a while until next week, until we come up with some more content. Just keep watching our videos over and over again. That'll be awesome. Share them with your friends, too. That'll be good. Until then, we'll see you then.
Waffles.